Hello and welcome to Crucible of Words for more dedicated legacy action. Today I just had the feeling that I wanted to play some elves, so that's exactly what we're doing. We're playing pretty much standard combo elves. So essentially we are making a load of guys and then drawing a whole bunch of cards off of things like Glimpse of Nature, and using our Wirewood Symbiote to continually replay our Elvish Visionary to draw through our deck, make a load of guys, and overrun our opponent either with an Allosaurus Shepherd or a Craterhoof Behemoth that we can get via the Natural Order or the Green Sun Zenith. Pretty straightforward. I've played this deck before on the channel. I've only played the deck twice in my life actually, and I've played it both times on the channel. I think it's really fun. It's a creature deck. There's also a combo deck, so it appeals to me in that respect. And it's got a few interesting little one-offs in terms of Grist that you can find with the Green Sun Zenith. But mostly the main deck is just streamlined for going as fast as possible and doing your thing. Now, when we look at the sideboard, we've got a few interesting bits worth noting. Obviously, Endurance as the hate for Reanimator and Ouphe spells and anything that's used in the graveyard, so this makes perfect sense. Now, normally you'd expect to see more Force of Vigor than one, but due to the elephant in the room, the big white elephant called Initiative, this list I found has opted for 4 Snuff Outs to try and help that matchup out and give you a big tempo swing, because it's a 0 mana spell that can take out their guy and just let you maybe go through, get the initiative, because you're going to have guys in play. So that should be interesting. And we got 4 Thoughtseize to try and round out some of these combo matchups where we need to attack our opponent's hand. So no Mindbreak traps, which is something you sometimes see. The Progenitus, also a nod, I suspect, to things like Initiative, because the Initiative deck can't deal with this when it's in play. And it's a very quick clock, and it will get the Initiative off them pretty quickly. So I think this is going to be useful against removal decks, and there's quite a few removal decks going around in terms of like white removal. So yeah, hopefully everything will come together and we'll be able to smash at people with lots of tiny little green men. I'm not going to go too much into the deck tech, because I've played this deck a couple of times before and there's not really anything new and exciting outside of the sideboard configuration being a little bit different here. And yeah, that's about it. So quick deck tech today. And before we jump into the league, let me just say, likes, comments and subscribers. These are 3 things that cost you nothing to do and really helps me out. And if I can get my subscribers up to 1,000, then I can start making a little bit of money, which means if I'm making money, I can play more weird and wonderful decks because I don't have to worry about my play points getting thrown out the window all the time when I play some pretty weird brews on this channel from time to time. All right, I think that's about it. Let's jump into a League of Legacy with everyone's favourite little green man, Elves. Right, this is our opening hand. We're on the draw. 3 lands is a bit more than I would normally like, but I think this is still fine. We have Birchlore Rangers. We have the Symbiote combo with the Visionary, which is pretty good because you can tap these for mana and then bounce it, and then if you've got another elf, you can play it. And we've got Once Upon a Time to try and bring the whole room together and get us a little bit more. So I think we can keep this one. We can always use one of our fetch lands to go and get one of our Dryad Arbors if necessary. Our opponent has begun with Leyline of the Void in play, which doesn't impact what we're doing, but it means that we can probably guess some of the cards in our opponent's deck, likely to be discard spells and Helm of Obedience, Stealthy Voidwalker type stuff. So I think first things first, we're going to cast our free spell so we can have a look at what we're doing. We have one option here and it's a basic forest. Okay, well these are going to be getting basic forest anyway, so we may as well play this out. And we can get a Dryad Arbor out and then next turn have enough mana to do multiple things. So next turn we'll have 3 mana, so we can go 1, 2 and play the Elvish Visionary. So the only problem is the Green Sun Zenith is like one of our business spells, but we already have this combo going on. So maybe it's just fine to get the Arbor here. Let me have a think. Yeah, so next turn we get to play out 3 elves. That seems good. Also means we're less likely to draw this Dryad Arbor that we don't want to draw right now. So next time we can play Birchlore, Elvish Visionary, tap them both for the Wirewood Symbiote. Now we can get him to Touract. We can get Thoughtseized. We can have this Sudden Edict or Liliana'd if they have some acceleration. There's a lot of things that can happen from our opponent. Castle Lochthwain tells us our opponent isn't trying to go deep into something like the Helm's Deep build where you have the Dark Depths combo as well, because you can't really afford to fill that in. The way our opponent's playing makes me think that they're going to try and combo us off next turn with Dark Rituals, and they're just trying to do it all in one turn. That's the impression I'm getting anyway. So first things first, let's go and get ourselves a basic forest. So I think we are on, so this is 1 mana, 2 mana gives us Nettle Sentinel, and this 3 mana gives us the Birchlore Ranger, which isn't enough unless we're bouncing the elf. So I think we're doing the plan we arranged before, which is Birchlore. I'm just trying to work out the order we cast these in case they have a discard spell. Not a discard spell, a Sudden Edict. Okay, so I think we play out the Visionary first. Get ourselves a little bit deeper into our deck. Okay, a Cradle, that could be useful for next turn. Play out this Birchlore Rangers. And then I think we tap 2 elves to make this Wirewood Symbiote. And we'll return this Elvish Visionary. Hold on, we've done the wrong way around. So we will untap the Dryad Arbor by returning the Visionary. And then we can play out the Nettle Sentinel. And then next turn we can play the Visionary. But like I said, I think our opponent has... Because they haven't done anything on the first 2 turns of the game, I think they're just going to turn 3, make Helm and kill us with it. Either that or our opponent's kept like a really weird hand. Dark Ritual, okay. Helm Obedience. Yeah, okay, so I had the exact read on what our opponent had there. I'm not going to let them see our deck. We just concede. Sure. So, what do we want in this matchup? The Collector Ouphe and the Force of Vigor both seem pretty reasonable. The Endurance isn't going to do anything. The Grist, I think, what is it? Blow artifacts. Sacrifice destroy that creature or a planeswalker. Okay, so it doesn't hit artifacts. The Snuff Out's obviously not coming into this matchup. The Thoughtseize do have text. Whether or not we want them remains to be seen. The Grist can kill things like Shouldered, which can be a little bit of an issue if our opponent plays that and we're trying to do some sort of glimpse chains. We don't want a Progenitus because our opponent is a deck that's going to be making us sacrifice creatures. So if they can sweep our board and make us sacrifice the Progenitus, it's not really going to matter. We just want to hit the big boy. So what are we looking at trimming here? It's always difficult to sideboard with combo decks that you're not that familiar with. So then we can get rid of one Quirion Ranger and that'll buy us a Collector Ouphe. And maybe we're looking at stripping out Once Upon a Time for a Force of Vigor. So we got some answers there. I don't know if we have the space to play these Thoughtseize, and their combo is a little bit slow. So maybe we're better. We don't really have much in the way of disruption for it outside of the Thoughtseize though. But these 2 cards, maybe that's enough. We don't need a lot of turns. I mean, this is fine. The Grist can kill the Doughty Voidwalker. I think on the play, especially, we can just play it like this. All right, let's give this a go. So what does this hand do? We go get a Dryad Arbor on turn 1. Turn 2, we can cast Elvish Visionary. Turn 3, we can Natural Order. I think this is fine. Like, the Cradle is going to give us a huge jump in mana that we can really utilise here. Because it's going to tap off of this Dryad Arbor we're getting. So we will go and get a basic forest here, and especially since we've got 2 of these. So we can go and get ourselves a Dryad Arbor. And our opponent didn't start with a leyline in play, so they're going to need to deploy 6 mana worth of things and then have a 7th mana to tap. Now, our opponent can just win through like a control-y type game with like Shouldered and removal spells and Plague Engineers. Crow Mox from our opponent. What are they pitching to their Mox? Opposition Agent, sure. Pretty good against the old Natural Order Green Sun Zenith deck. And they have the mana for this now, so we don't want to play our Green Sun Zenith into the opposition agent mana that is clearly open in front of us. It looks like they're just doing it now. Sudden Edict. There's no point tapping this for mana. So you can tap mana in response to Sudden Edict effects, but you can't cast spells or use like other abilities. I think they should do that in upkeep if they're doing it rather than our draw step. So now we're probably looking at casting this Elvish Visionary, I think. Getting ourselves a little bit of card advantage, getting into our deck, turning on our Gaea's Cradle. Okay, that's a pretty reasonable one. So if we play this and we get this for Dryad Arbor, and we in our thing, okay, so this is going to name L. This is going to be a little bit of a problem for us, but we do have the Grist that we can get. We're going to have to try and find a way of getting our Nettle Sentinel to do stuff though. This Dryad Arbor is okay. I think we might just have to cycle our Glimpse of Nature here. Is that right? So we can play this and this out. This taps for 2, 3. Yeah, I think we are casting this turn. I'm not an accomplished Elves player by any stretch of the imagination. Like I said, I've only played this deck twice before. But let's see how we do. Okay, so this is a card we can't cast because of the Plague Engineer. We can play this one out. We can play out this Cradle. Next turn. And we can't do this. So next turn we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 mana. So we can get the Grist into play and kill this. And then we can work towards a Natural Order kill. Our opponent's got Ancient Tomb, so we're not going to need as many creatures available to do the Craterhoof plan. So if we get a... Wait, we might be able to kill them next turn. Oh, this is a bad one for us. Yikes. Yeah, I'm normally pretty happy playing the black deck against Elves because I always run 4 Plague Engineer in my sideboard. Okay, so this is a lot. This is going to be difficult. So we have 1, 2, 3 mana here. This will be the 4th. Do I need to play my Cradle out now, or can I just play the Bayou? Why would I not want to play the Cradle is the question. So what we can do here is we can Green Sun Zenith for a Dryad Arbor. Then we play the Cradle out, which then taps for 2, 3, 4 mana. We can get a Grist. We can plus the Grist to make a token. Then the following turn we can natural order for lethal, because we'll have 3, potentially 4 guys in play. So that'll be 5, and each of them will tap 3, so 5, 6, 7, 8, plus another 3, 6, 9, 12. Yeah, okay, I think that works. If they've got a third Plague Engineer, then we were never winning this game anyway. Oh, yikes. Okay, our opponent's got the Opposition Agent and the Dark Ritual there. Christ. No, we're not winning this game. How do we win this game now? There's nothing... I guess they take the Grist out of our deck. Wait, no, they can't take the Grist, sorry, can they? They can only get the Dryad Arbor here. Yeah, okay. That's fine. Yikes. We should play this out. If our opponent taps low enough, and we can draw... Oh, God, what can we even draw at this point? Wirewood Symbiote, probably where we need to be here. We can draw some Wirewood Symbiotes. We can get a little bit more damage in. Yeah, so we need to draw Wirewood Symbiote this turn, and then try and kill them next turn. So we can attack them for 6 this turn, but then they have these Death Touch blockers. But they're coming in for 7, so I've got 1 more turn. So if I draw Wirewood Symbiote, and then cast this, so I'll have 5, 6 power in play, plus another 4, so I have 10 power. So if they tap their Ancient Tomb at the end of our turn and then tap it again for something else. We can just natural order right now. If we had the Progenitus in our deck, it actually looked pretty good now. Now we don't know how many discard effects our opponent, how many edict effects our opponent has in hand right now. But normally the combo of Plague Engineer plus edict effects means that Progenitus is bad. I don't think attacking for 6 right now is good enough. We can natural order for Grist, but what does that actually achieve? If we natural order for Grist, we can't kill anything, so we +1, and then they might just kill the Grist, and then we're left with nothing in the natural order. So I think we're supposed to attack our opponent for 1 this turn, hope they don't have a flash threat. Like, I'm pretty sure we lose. I would always bet on the mono-black deck in this particular matchup anyway. I've played it from the mono-black side a fair few times. I do like playing mono-black strategies. Let's see what we do. I do have another opposition agent. Sure, so this is 3, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. So we're dead on board. All right. We got absolutely smushed by the black deck. Now, game 1, we might have been able to go quick enough if we'd have drawn slightly differently. But, yeah, we got killed on turn 3 and we got double Plague Engineered when we're playing a tribal deck of 1/1s. So it happens. This matchup feels abysmal, so I don't mind losing it. And I enjoy playing from the other side anyway. On to round 2. We've won the die roll for round 2. We have an interesting one here. I think we're on the Green Sun Zenith for Dryad Arbor plan again, just so we can guarantee 2 mana for turn 2. And if we draw a land, then we get to really go hard. So I think this is fine. We don't really have a super payoff yet because we need a bit more mana and a bit more stuff going on. So also if we Dryad Arbor, it gives us the option of doing a potential Glimpse Chain, maybe, if we draw. No, we need another land and a Glimpse, wouldn't we? So that gives us a turn 3 Glimpse potentially. But I think this hand is fine. So we get this on turn 1, and then turn 2, if we draw any land, we can deploy a load of things. Okay, our opponent's mulligan to 6. Our opponent's now mulligan to 5, which makes me suspect they are more likely to be a quick combo deck that needs to assemble very specific things rather than just having a keepable hand with, you know, interchangeable threats or whatever. So I think we do make this play. Get ourselves basic forest. Cast this Green Sun Zenith. Go get Dryad Arbor. Our opponent's F6, so now we F6 through them, I suppose. Although we could be representing one of these like blue Zenith decks, so we might be able to make them think we have a counter spell. Ancient Tomb, followed by no play. A Boseiju. Sure, this seems alright to me. We play out our Boseiju. We play out this Allosaurus Shepherd. We play out this Nettle Sentinel. We play out this Heritage Druid. And we get ourselves some mana. Play this. So this lets us return a forest to untap target creature. So we can't actually do anything for the rest of our turn now, but if we draw a Cradle, we can just win the game, right? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, and then we tap the Dryad Arbor. So a Cradle off the top gives us a turn 3 kill. If our opponent's an initiative deck and they make a creature this turn, it might be a little bit difficult for us to steal the initiative without losing an important guy, but we can see how that pans out. Now our opponent has just not played anything here, which is interesting to me. Another Craterhoof. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So I can bash our opponent for 5. I can bash my opponent for 10, I think. So if we tap this guy, so we tap this, and this for 3 mana. Tap this for 4, 5, 6. We can activate this, and then we can return a forest to untap our Allosaurus Rider. Then we can attack for 10. We can play our land back out. We can do a similar play next turn, but obviously our Nettle Sentinel won't untap. Obviously, if we find any green spell, it's probably not. Okay, so our opponent played 2 Ancient Tombs, then didn't do anything. So this means our opponent is... I don't know, I'm not sure what our opponent could be. There could be some sort of like Epic Gamble, Epic Storm type thing. I'm suspecting they're going to have some amount of artifacts in their deck. And I'm expecting that they're going to have some amount of possible combo-y things. They could be initiative, I suppose, but they would have played out a thing, surely. Like, you don't go to 5 and then just not play something out if you're initiative. I'm leaning more towards them being a combo deck because of how that turn played out. So I think we can get rid of a Grist for a Collector Ouphe, so we're swapping out our Silver Bullet target there. Oh, sorry, not Epic, like Epic Gamble type combo is what I think our opponent is, which means you probably also want this Force of Vigor. And for boarding in Force of Vigors and Thoughtseize, we're probably boarding out Once Upon a Times because we have less hits that way. And do I think a Craterhoof is going to be good here, or do I think I'm looking at maybe having a Progenitus? I think a lot of the times they're going to be very similar. This one's more likely to go fast. That's probably what we need to do. Do we need an additional Thoughtseize here? And if so, how do we accommodate the additional Thoughteize? Maybe it's just trimming on stuff. So the things that let us go long are things like Visionaries and such like. So the Visionary Wirewood Symbiote combo is how we play a long game. I'm not sure if we're necessarily going to play a long game or not. Difficult to say. This list only has 3 Heritage Druids in as well. Maybe I'm wrong. I'm going to board out Wirewood Symbiote to get this other Thoughtseize in. Now we might find that we've boarded completely wrong depending on what our deck's playing. I don't think we want to take out Elves because we want to be able to... Okay, so what does this do? We can make a turn to Cradle, and we don't need much. Sorry, not a turn to Cradle, turn to Collector Ouphe, and we don't need much to get into Natural Ordering. I think this is fine. This is a hand where Progenitus would be better, I think. Okay, our opponent's mulligan to 5. There must be some sort of combo deck. There could be like the mono-brown artifacty deck, the Khan one, but I think we would have seen them play a permanent out. Unless they were just so under the gun immediately that they just thought it wasn't worth showing us what they were, because we sort of represented that we had a 2-turn clock relatively quickly, so maybe that's what happened. I'm not sure. Our opponent's mulligan to 3, which makes me think they are a deck that has Lion's Eye Diamond and Echo of Eons. They've mulligan to 2, so an Echo of Eons, Lion's Eye Diamond hand is a very good, keepable legacy hand, those 2 cards. And I think that's the only deck that realistically would mulligan to 2 cards. It's not like we're playing Vintage Dredge where, well, I'm not sure if that's still the case, but Vintage Dredge used to be able to just mulligan to Bazaar of Baghdad. Ancient Tomb. Okay, so maybe they're not that sort of deck. I think we don't need to Green Sun Zenith this turn. We can Green Sun Zenith next turn for a Birchlore and then cast a Thoughtseize, so we can at least get a look at what our opponent's doing. So we'll play this one out. Next turn we can play the Cradle, tap our Forest, get a Green Sun Zenith for 1 for Birchlore, tap them both to make a black, Thoughtseize our opponent, just to really punish. We should have attacked first, actually. So we get this Birchlore Rangers. And we cast this, targeting them. We'll tap our 2 Elves. Yeah, so we missed 2 points of damage here. Galvanic Relay and Lion's Eye Diamond, sure. So we can get rid of the Lion's Eye Diamond. Next turn we're going to play the Collector Ouphe, and I think we'll get the concession there. So our opponent's deck did the work for us this game. Boseiju is pretty good. Let's tap this. I imagine this will get the concession. It's going to be very hard for our opponent to beat this. Yeah, there we go. So I could also Boseiju their Ancient Tomb to cut them off of more mana, but this deck looks like the Epic Gamble to me because it's running the Ancient Tombs, and I think that's really one of the only Storm decks that run it. Well, it's the only one I think that runs Lion's Eye Diamond, Galvanic Relay, and Ancient Tomb. Alright, so that one was our opponent's deck not really doing anything, but we did represent a good hand this turn. But then again, our opponent is like a turn 1 combo deck, so most of the time this won't work. We'll have to try and win in game 3. Game 1, we presented a relatively fast clock, and our opponent only went to 5. But yeah, I think that was more of a case of our opponent losing the game rather than us winning it, but still counts as being on the board, so let's go into the next round. So this hand, with basically any elf, we can represent a turn 3 natural order. So I'd rather not have the Craterhoof in hand, but I think this is keepable on the draw. We have 1-drop that can't be countered into another 1-drop, and any elf makes us have more mana. So I think this is worth doing. We'll keep. We also have the Cradle to make hard casting this Craterhoof realistic. Boseiju from our opponent. So this is probably... Oh, okay, it's a mirror match. I see. Interesting. So we play out this Bayou. And so we have a turn 3 here. Which of these do we want to play out first? Does it matter is a better question. I'll play out the Nettle Sentinel. Just mirror our opponent. Like, they play elves more, so they're probably better than me, I would imagine. So most people are better than me at elves if they play elves online. So if they play the Sentinel out first, then maybe we should play the Sentinel out first as well. Cradle, okay. So they're going to play out a 1-drop, and they're going to attack the Cradle for 2. Okay, they want to get their 2 damage in first. So I can block here and shut off their Cradle. Do I need to do that? It does lose one of our elves. I think we're not supposed to block. And we're just supposed to hope that we can have a better turn than they can. I don't know, that's an interesting one. Quirion Ranger, sure. So this... They don't actually have any forests yet. So this isn't the most threatening. Glimpse of Nature. Oh, geez, are they going now? Okay, this means they probably have a Heritage Druid in hand. A Wirewood Symbiote. Okay, so this isn't necessarily the worst. They don't have any additional mana here. Alright, I think we've escaped that one relatively unscathed that turn. So this turn, we play out Allosaurus Shepherd. Then we play out our Cradle. Tap our Cradle, play out this Heritage Druid. We can tap some elves. And so we can natural order right now. But what would we get if we did that? We could get a Grist and make sure and guarantee that we have a lethal Craterhoof next turn. Because we have... no, I don't think we're supposed to natural order this turn. I think we're just supposed to play this guy out. Yeah, and then we can just natural order for the win next turn just by tapping our Cradle. I'm sure better elves players in the comments can tell me if that was right or not. Also, if we should have traded there or not. So we have lethal next turn with lots of massive creatures. But our opponent gets to go first. Another Nettle Sentinel. So they didn't have a Heritage Druid last turn, otherwise we would have played it over the Quirion Ranger. It's just a natural order. Is this lethal? Probably looks that way. I guess we'll see the numbers when they come rather than wasting our brain power at this late hour to calculate it. That's a lot of power, yeah. So that's 25 and we can only soak up 3, so we are dead here. So if we win the die roll, we win that game. If we lost the die roll, we lose that game. Them's be the breaks. Now, what are we supposed to do about this? I think we just play Snuff Outs. I think that's all we're supposed to do here. And if we're boarding in these, the Once Upon a Times get worse. I don't know if Grist is worth playing in this matchup. It feels like a lot of mana and a lot of work just to try and blow stuff up. I think we're better off just snuffing out here. Like, we could board in Thoughtseize to try and hit glimpses, but I don't want to mess with the core engine of the deck. I don't think this is a Progenitus game either. Like, they're not going to be removing our creatures. Yeah, we'll go for this. It's going to be very difficult to break serve, unfortunately. I don't think this is good enough to keep. I think we should mulligan. What does this hand do? No, this is a mulligan as well, I think. This one seems alright, I think. We can keep. So 2 of these have got to go. I don't think we want the Dryad Arbor, which means you probably don't want to keep 2 glimpses. I think we are Dryad Arbor on turn 1, and then maybe try and do like a little small glimpse chain to sort of undo our mulligan. We are behind already with this hand, I think, but we're going to get a Bayou because our land doesn't matter and we have Snuff Out in our deck, so we need to have a swamp. So next turn we can draw 2 cards perhaps if we draw a 1-drop. Or have they got for us? Okay, so they're mirroring us. Alrighty then. Heritage Druid. This is a pretty good one. So I think we're going green for Glimpse. And then green for Heritage Druid. Put our Cradle. Tap this. Draw a card. So this untouched target creature, so we can return an elf. We can untap our Dryad Arbor by returning our Heritage Druid. Then we can play our Heritage Druid, or we can play our... I think we play our Heritage Druid here, in the hopes we draw another 1-mana elf. It's a pretty good one. Play this one out. Draw another card. We can make 1 mana here, but we can't do anything with that 1 mana. But that felt like an okay turn. Next turn we can do quite a big... We can Visionary and get some card advantage that way. We don't need a lot. Like, we draw a natural order off the top, I think we're okay. Wirewood Symbiote. Sure, our opponent's doing a similar thing to us, but without the glimpse by the looks of it. Visionary, sure. So we draw natural order. I think if we draw Craterhoof, we also win, because we can tap Cradle, play Cradle. And Green Sun Zenith wins as well. So we've got a lot of draws that win us the game, I think. Green Sun Zenith. Now I believe that does it. So we tap this for 4. We play this for 4. We tap this for the 7th, and then we have enough guys, right? Tap this, play this, keep this one, tap this, and tap this, cast this for 8, go and get a Craterhoof Behemoth. Sure, okay. So we multi-5 correctly, I would say, that game. We had a turn 3 kill. Nice. Okay, does anything change on the draw? Maybe Thoughtseize becomes more important on the draw. Can't see boarding out 4 more cards from our package. We need to be able to go and do our thing. We can't afford to have too many blanks that don't really interact with what our deck's doing. But we're slightly at their mercy. But we only need to really draw 1 disruption spell, I think. Maybe board out 1 for a Thoughtseize. Do we need the Shepherd? Maybe we can board out a Shepherd for a second one? I don't know. It doesn't feel... I don't know. Let me know in the chat. I think we're going to be under the gun, so we're going to need an answer here. Okay. We're on the draw. If we draw creatures, then we'll be... Oh, is this hand keepable? That's the question. So this could get us a Dryad Arbor. We have a Snuff Out to kill one of their key guys. And then we can try and glimpse Nettle Sentinel, Cradle maybe. Yikes. I don't know if this is good enough. Screw it. Let's try it. Like I said, I'm not an Elves player. Please let me know in the comments if you would keep this hand. I don't know. It feels very marginal. So I think we play this one out. And I think we do play out the Nettle Sentinel here. We get mana. Also, because we didn't fetch the Bayou, it doesn't necessarily look like we have the Snuff Out. So we might be able to blag the Snuff Out. We need to save it for like a Heritage Druid or a... That's not a bad one to kill if they're going to have enough mana to activate it. An Elvish Visionary. Sure. So they can't attack us this turn. Let's see what we find. Another Snuff Out. I think we have to kill this now, because if they just tap this then tap it again, then we just die to it. So I think we just snuff this out straight away. Is our opponent going to... I think what we're supposed to do is get the Wooded Foothills out and get a Dryad Arbor at end of turn to power up our Cradle. Which means I think we're not attacking this turn. And then next turn we can try and play multiple spells. Now we do have another Snuff Out, so we can take out another key piece. We can beat a natural order for Craterhoof here. But if they get Progenitus, that's probably not great for us, actually. This is a tricky one. If we kill the Quirion Ranger now, then they have to play something else before they activate this. I don't know if what I'm supposed to do here. If we kill this, they have to have another elf in hand. They tap these 3. So they tap Cradle and this to get Craterhoof. Attack with, it'll be +3. So 3, 6, 9. So we can kill one of them, but we can kill the Craterhoof and take 4. So then these will be both attacking for not enough. Okay, I think we let this resolve, because this is the way we can beat Craterhoof if they're just... Okay, so this is our last chance to interact with an elf on the board. I think we're supposed to kill the Visionary and stop them being able to get redraws. So they're going to tap these 3 and gain 3 mana. If they have the natural order, then yeah, then they get us here. Our light total was quite low anyway. People with more experience playing elves would also know which was the right one to hit there. But I'm definitely at a disadvantage in the mirror because I'm not X is 2. So this is going to be for an Elvish Visionary. I've got 1 card in hand. 2 cards now because it's just a natural order for like Progenitus or something. No, they're just doing an Elvish Visionary draw line. So if we draw the right thing next turn, we might be able to kill our opponent. as is the nature of elves. Now, they're still going here, but they can't bounce the Elvish Visionary again this turn. Okay, and they're not spending their mana either. So this is going to become a Dryad Arbor. Then it's over to us. We need to draw something good here. Doesn't really constitute good, does it? So I think we are playing Glimpse of Nature. We're playing Heritage Druid to draw a card. We need to draw an elf. That is not an elf. That not being an elf means that we're probably supposed to play out the Dryad Arbor here. Play out the Dryad Arbor, then we play this out next turn. That gives us 4, 5, 6, 7. So if we play out the Cradle and we draw if we play out the Cradle and we draw a second Cradle, then we can kill our opponent next turn with Craterhoof. If we play out the Dryad Arbor, basically if we draw anything other than a second Cradle, Dryad Arbor is the better land to play here. Which I think means we're supposed to play it out, and we can still just cast Natural Order and things if we draw it anyway. So the one where we get punished is if we draw one of our 3 of Cradles. So I think we play this. Now our opponent might just kill us next turn, but at least we have... I don't know how necessary dead we are because they didn't try and hit us with a Natural Order last turn. They do get to draw 3 cards this turn because they get to cast the Elvish Visionary twice and they have their draw step. So what are we going to do here? 3 mana straight away so they can untap their Nettle Sentinel and keep adding mana to their pool. Yep. We have to sort of fake the illusion of Snuff Out, but maybe they can play around that. I don't know. Or maybe I would have snuffed out already and they're just going to do it anyway. I don't think it makes a difference. Maybe we should just F6. But we've got plenty of time on the clock. First 2 rounds are pretty quick, so we'll stay plugged in a little bit and see if our opponent plays around anything. So, Craterhoof Behemoth, very lethal right now. But 3... So, Green Sun's anything for Craterhoof, and then they can untap a guy. Or they're just going to be continuing to do... If they're just playing little visionary chains to like grind advantage, and they haven't actually just got an I win button, then we might be able to squeak this one if we get super lucky. But we did lose a die roll in the mirror match in a sort of pretty uninteractive combo mirror game. So, although we did have 2 interactive spells, which maybe turn the tide. Like killing that Allosaurus Shepherd has meant that we're not dead on board Grist. Okay, that's a guy. So I guess we are supposed to keep this in the mirror. But maybe they don't have the 4 Snuff Outs. So we're going to lose our Heritage Druid this turn. Yep, that's not fine, but it doesn't really change what we're trying to draw now. Also means that the double Gaea's Cradle line is no longer feeling like a good one. Which, so just as well we didn't play it. Was that it? I'm not winning by trading off any guys here. I would like to draw... I don't even think Natural Order is good enough here. I'm not sure what we need to draw. Guess we're casting this for green. What do you got for me, deck? An Allosaurus Shepherd. That's not the worst, is it? Let's play this guy out. So we play our Cradle now. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So we can't actually activate our Allosaurus Shepherd for blocks this turn. Our opponent gets another turn to draw a bunch of cards. But if they don't get it, we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. So we can cast the Craterhoof with 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 attackers. So we kind of need our opponent to brick on stuff here. Not necessarily the easiest thing to do when they're drawing that many cards. Yep, there's a Visionary that we knew was coming. So they're using their Dryad Arbor rather than their Elves because the Dryad Arbor is going to untap anyway. Because they're going to use the Quirion Ranger to untap that at some stage. I think you probably still use the Nettle Sentinels because they untap for free, right? But I guess then your Heritage Druid is tapped. Yep, keep them coming. Like, if you've got it, you got it. There's nothing I can do here. Okay, if we get a turn, we can win the game. But I don't know if we're going to get another turn. So this lets them replay the Visionary again. Sure. So get 1 card deeper. Now the Cradle taps for silly mana right now. Have they got it? Allosaurus Shepherd. Oh god, I'm going to have to work out how bad that is for us, aren't I? We'll worry about that when it comes to blocks. So how many elves can they attack with this turn? They can attack with 4 elves. And I would have to block 3 of them to survive. So not like in our odds. Because that's also going to make our Cradle pretty crap. Might even take away our natural... might even take away our ability to kill them on the next turn anyway. Okay. So they got some large lads. It's tough out there. Come on, just don't attack with all your guys. Just keep some of your elves back. Yikes. Okay. So we have to block 3 guys, otherwise we die. So we don't really have a choice what we do here, and it doesn't matter which ones we block because they're all big enough. Not going to be easy for us to win this one. Windswept Heath. No, we got nothing. We're done here. So that was the mirror match. And again, in that game, if we're on the play, we win that game. And same with the first game, if we're on the play, we win that game. So for all my snuff outs and attempts to do stuff, we lose because we lost a die roll, I think, on that one, which is fair enough. Like, it's a mirror match. There's got to be some sort of breaker, and, you know, dice roll is as good as anything, I suppose. All right, on to the next round. This opening hand is very slow because all these lands are no good, so we're going to mulligan this one. This one, on the other hand, seems fine. I think we can keep this. We need to put one of these away, so put the excess Cradle away. I think we play out the Dryad Arbor first, and then we can use the glimpse on turn 2. Okay, we might not get a turn 2 here. Unmask, targeting us. Sure. So we're probably losing the glimpse here. I suspect we are probably dead to a Grizzlebrand in the very, very near future, though. Verdant Catacombs cracked. I suspect we are getting a Grizzlebrand into a play for our opponent this turn. Yep, an Entomb. Now, there's a non-zero chance we can race this, so we may as well play it out. And in this matchup, we are almost certainly not going to time. Okay, they've gone for the Archon of Cruelty. Does that change things? I think we just concede. I take it back. There's no point playing out because I got that one. Okay, so I would like to play these 4 endurances, please. Progenitus doesn't feel great in a world of Archon of Cruelty, so we can't just have a guy and sack it to this. Snuff Out, obviously very bad here. Thoughtseize definitely has some text. Grist the Hunger Tide. This does let us kill one of their guys if it gets into play, so I think we probably have to keep it in case things go wrong. This isn't really a we need our guys to be uncounterable matchup, but also having things that let us cast big guys is probably quite good as well. Making our guys big so we can race. Although, is it that sort of game? Maybe. Maybe it isn't. Rather have the Ranger, or would we rather have the Shepherds? I think we want Natural Order just as a thing that we can, you know, maybe race them with. Once Upon a Time finds our sideboard card this time, so we definitely don't want to board them out. The Glimpses let us go big. So maybe we're just shaving on some of these cards like this. And then we probably don't have that much time for the Visionary Chains. We can always Green Sun Zenith for the bits and pieces when we need them. We only sort of need one Visionary to do that. Do we want Thoughtseizes is the next question. Or is this Endurance enough? If you want Thoughtseizes, then we're going to have to trim around. I think we probably do need Thoughtseizes now I think about it. So we can cut this 1-drop for these 1-drops. And then where are we at? Probably not saving our creatures that much with the Wirewood Symbiote. And are we trimming a Natural Order? Don't know if we are. Trim another Visionary. Yeah, I don't know. I want the Natural Order so I can if our hate isn't permanent is the thing. It's not if we have Leyline, so we need to win the game relatively quickly even though we disrupt them. So I think we need to keep the Natural Order in so we can at least present a clock that doesn't take that long. So we probably need at least one Allosaurus Shepherd in our deck as well. I don't think we can cut any more 1-drops in our deck. Maybe it is the Once Upon a Time that needs to go. I don't know. Well, maybe we'll change it on the game 3 if we get a game 3. This hand seems bad because we don't have any action. This hand seems pretty keepable to me. We can keep this. And one of these has to go. Have 2 Green Sun Zenith. Is that too many? I think we can probably ship a Green Suns. So done. And then we'll cast our Once Upon a Time for free. See if we can find ourselves something good here. So none of these are what I would describe as good. Obviously, the Cradle's fine, but we were kind of hoping to hit like an Endurance or something. So we'll get this Cradle out. And we'll play this. And I think our opponent's got 7 card hands, so I think we are definitely incentivized to Thoughtseeze our opponent here. Okay, our opponent has 2 Show and Tells, an Entomb. Our opponent has 2 Show and Tells, 2 Entombs, and a Dark Ritual. So, Jesus. As weird as this sounds, I think the correct play here is Grizzlebrand. Because they can always get a Grizzlebrand in the graveyard, whatever we take here. The one thing they can't get is a Grizzlebrand in hand for their Show and Tell. So if they draw like a Petal, they can just go like Petal, Ritual, Show and Tell, and then we're dead. And we can't take both Show and Tells, there's 2 of them. Can't take both Entombs to stop them. The Dark Ritual, maybe the Dark Ritual we could take. It's either the Grizzlebrand or the Dark Ritual, right? The Dark Ritual can slow them down for a couple of turns. Now we have to win before they get to 3 mana. So what do we think is more likely for our opponent to draw? Mana sources or a reanimation spell? This is a really tough choice. I think it's the mana. I'm not sure. The logic being that they definitely can't make a creature this turn. They need 2 cards to put a creature into play in any fashion. A Wooded Foothills. What are we doing here? We need to draw some cards. The Green Sun Zenith can draw us, can get us a Visionary if we need it. So maybe we're doing like Glimpse into Birchlore this turn. That feels very, very weak though. What are the 1-drops we can get? We can get an Allosaurus Shepherd. We can get ourselves a Wirewood Symbiote. So next turn we can get 2 cards off of our Glimpse of Nature. Is that good enough? I think that's... Like, we're always getting a... I don't think we're in the mood to get a... I think the best thing we do here is get the Wirewood, right? So this Wirewood lets us get more cards. And we only need to find 1 elf. I think this is correct. And we need to try and have a big Glimpse turn next turn. Hopefully our opponent bricks on lands. And we don't have to worry about the show and tell. So this turn they can show and tell or kill us in other ways. Okay. So this is what we wanted to draw. So I think we play Glimpse. We play this. Draw a card. Play this. Get another card. So that means cast this. And then we can draw another card. Then we can make 2 mana here. We can make 1 mana here. Then we can bounce our guy. So I think we definitely make 2 mana here. We make 1 mana here. And then we get to bounce 1 of these cards. I think I'd rather just have the 1 to play so our natural order is better next turn. Actually, no, if we bounce the elf... no, if we bounce... How does this work? So if we bounce the Birchlore and untap an Elvish Visionary and replay the Birchlore, that doesn't really get us anywhere. If we bounce the Visionary and untap the Birchlore, we still need a way of getting this. I think we just have to bounce any 1 mana guy, right? So we'll untap. I think we want to keep the Visionary in play, as weird as that sounds. Okay, this is good. This is good now. So we can go make black mana, Thoughtseize our opponent. What have you got? Entomb. So they have the land for the Griselbrand. So this time we are taking the Griselbrand. Okay, so they got 5 cards now. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So let's cross these other ones off. And then next turn we can natural order our opponent and hopefully kill them. Okay, so they're thinning their deck with these Entombs. But on the other side, if they put creatures in their graveyard, then they are less likely to draw them for the show and tell. There's a Bloodstone Mire. Alright, I think we might be able to have a turn here. A Green Sun Zenith. We don't really care about that right now. So we just play this out. And for cast natural order, I will sacrifice a Wirewood Symbiote, I guess. This will untap our Nettle Sentinel. This will get us a Craterhoof. We'll have some massive guys. We'll tap with some massive guys. I suppose we could have Green Sun Zenith for a creature so that we have more attackers. That's probably better. We can Green Sun Zenith for a guy to sack. That makes more sense. All right. Is there anything different we could do on the... So these Thoughtseize actually ended up saving us the game, I think. So, yeah. Seems good. I think on the draw, we want another Once Upon a Time so that we're more likely to hit into an Endurance if necessary. Which means we're probably looking at cutting something here. Maybe it's one of our Craterhoofs, so they've got less things to hit out of our hand. Although we do have a habit of having Craterhoofs in our opener. So this has a Once Upon a Time that can find us an Endurance potentially. So do we want to risk the top 4 cards of our library having an Endurance or not? I think we can just mulligan to an Endurance. This is the same gambit but with no land, so I think we are mulliganing this one as well. We're keeping this one, so we get rid of Craterhoof Behemoth. And... yikes, what are we getting rid of here? As bad as it is, I think we have to get rid of the Cradle, just so we have 2 bites at the cherry of stopping our opponent. Like, a lot of our creatures help us make mana, so let's see what they got for us. Our Badlands. Our Faith is Looting, sure. Okay, neither of those are reanimation targets, so that's good news. A Green Sun Zenith. So, first things first, we want to cast our free spell. Let's see what we find here. Do you want another land? Do you want a Nettle Sentinel? I don't think we want a Dryad Arbor, although it is green, so it does pitch to Endurance. So if we take the land here, this means we have access to Thoughtseize if we draw one. So I think the Wooded Foothills is correct. Sorry, I had a little disconnect there, but we are back now. Okay, so we have this Wooded Foothills that can go and get us a Bayou. So I think we have the Foothills. We've got 1, 2, 3, 4. I think we... so we get the Bayou. I think we Green Sun Zenith for Dryad Arbor so we can hard cast an Endurance next turn and try and win the game that way. This way we can pitch cast one of our Endurances and then hard cast the other one. I think that gives us the most ways of interacting with our opponent. Now, we might just be dead this turn anyway. They could show and tell us. They could have to think. But the fact that they didn't put any guys into their bin is interesting to me. It does make me believe our... Okay, this is representing a show and tell line for sure. Faithless Looting. Okay, so there's a Grizzlebrand. There's a Dark Ritual. Looks like our opponent's going relatively all in on this Grizzlebrand in their graveyard. So we will cast this by exiling this Wirewood Symbiote. So this will also take their Faithless Lootings for later. Our opponent's down to 1 card in hand, so we're in an okay spot. A Boseiju. There's a possibility of Boseijuing away their Underground Sea here. I think we will see how this turn transpires, because they would need to have Show and Tell and a Fatty. So the chances of them having both of those seem relatively low to me. So I think we can see what happens this turn. And if they don't do... Okay, so we've got Faithless Looting here. Sure. So if they go again, we can Endurance them again. And they will have no resources, and we'll have a guy in play. There's a Chancellor. So we have 2 choices. We can either play this Endurance and start beating, or we can Boseiju them. I think we're just going to cast the Endurance here. We can always Boseiju them later. Okay, I just got the concession. Excellent. So we managed to get that one through the power of double Endurance hand, but our opponent didn't have any hand disruption, which is very rare for the Reanimator deck. So I'm not unhappy to have got through that. Oh, they boarded in Dismembers as well, so they probably boarded quite low on some of their discard outlets, and I don't think that's right. I think you just have your discard stuff, take out our Endurance and make your big scary guy. But maybe they thought we were on ley lines, which is not impossible for Elves. Anyway, so we got that matchup anyway. So we are 2-2, I think, going into the final round. See if we can get our money back with Little Green Elves. This is our opener. It's kind of slow, really. Like, this Dryad Arbor is going to really hamper us. We're on the draw. We do have Elvish Visionaries to maybe find some more stuff, and we can kind of play it by ear a little bit in terms of what we draw. It's marginal, but I think I'm going to keep it. I don't think I would keep this on the play, but I think I'll keep it on the draw. Oh, our opponent nearly passed through the whole turn then. Polluted Delta, Mishra's Bauble. So this is probably Stormish. I'm thinking Epic Storm. Could just be Delver though. Wirewood Symbiote. Interesting. Do we play around a Daze here? We can just play the Allosaurus Shepherd, but we really need to find another land if we can do anything. I think we have to play out the Dryad Arbor, as ugly as that is. Okay, they're just going to bolt our land. Sure. Definitely feeling like Delver now. Yep, there's a DRC. A glimpse. So we'll get a basic. So we can play around Daze or we can play around Bolt. So we either play out the Shepherd or the Symbiote. They've kept this 1 mana open, which is definitely giving me Bolt vibes. I'm going to play out the Symbiote. It was a brainstorm. Okay. The Shepherd gives us access to uncounterable natural orders down the line, so I think it's quite important to protect it. Because we're going to end up in a spot where we have to resolve a natural order to win the game, I imagine. Okay, so we got the Wirewood Symbiote in. We really do need to draw another mana source. Scalding Tarn. Our opponent can create a Murktide Regent this turn. Should be a bit mean. A Lightning Bolt, sure. So they had the Lightning Bolt. So I'm very happy with my choice to play the Allosaurus Shepherd. Would love to draw another mana source. A Boseiju. A wastelandable mana source, not the sort of mana source I wanted, really. So we have choices here. So if we play out the Shepherd, that doesn't actually do a great deal for us. Right now, at least. So I think we play out the Boseiju, and we play out this guy. So the reason I don't really like the Shepherd here is because I'm not going to have it in play to do stuff with, if you know what I mean. It's just, I get to play 1 spell this turn and not really use my mana effectively, and I've got these 2 mana cards stranded in my hand when I'm trying to cast a Glimpse Chain. Expressive Iteration. It's a pretty strong one. If we can draw a Cradle, then I think we're in a good spot. If we can just draw another land at all, that's probably fine too. Opponent hasn't been big on the L counter spell so far, though. A Lightning Bolt. Okay, so it's got triple Lightning Bolt hand. Yep, that's fine. Another mana source. A Cradle. Okay, that's a pretty good mana source. I think we're casting this guy. I'm not expecting another Lightning Bolt here. Now, this isn't really like a Glimpse Chain that we're doing here. This is just trying to play out our spells and put us in a position. Like, our opponent's played a lot of removal, so I have to imagine that there's less removal in our opponent's hand. So next turn, we can cast Natural Order for lethal, because we'll have 4 attacking creatures, including the Craterhoof itself, because we can play out the Allosaurus Shepherd first. Mystic Sanctuary. So they're going to put a Lightning Bolt on top of their library. I'm interested to see what this goes after. It's probably going to go after Wirewood Symbiote, because that can bounce either of the other guys. Let's see. It's on the Wirewood Symbiote. So we can bounce our Visionary if we want to, or we can leave it in play. I think we leave it in play, and then we play Allosaurus Shepherd. And we attack with 3 big guys. Another expressive iteration. Yeah. I think you probably want to cast that before the bolt. Maybe. I'm not sure. You probably want the most information of how your turn's going to play out before you start playing spells. There's a Wasteland. Okay, so our Cradle's gone. Alright, it's going to be hard. If we can draw a Cradle this turn, then we're A-OK. A Windswept Heath is not a Cradle. Alright, let's cast this Glimpse. Let's cast this guy. Kind of hoping this hits us into anything. Another Natural Order. It's not really the one we wanted, was it? Right, let's get some medium beats in. So if we draw a land next turn, we can, as long as it's not a Dryad Arbor. We're not going to draw a Dryad Arbor because this is going to get us a Dryad Arbor. And so if we draw a land, we can do an uncounterable Natural Order. So we are within a chance of winning this game. Another Channeler, that doesn't impact what we're trying to achieve, I don't think. It does change the math slightly. But I can't imagine they'd have another lightning bolt for our face. They've had a lot of bolts. Let's crack this. Okay, so this is lethal now. So we're saying yes, we're saying do or die right now. Any land. You're a land. Green, 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 green. Natural Order, sacrifice this. Okay, so this is the Pyroblast just to try and filter the cards from the top of their deck. Where is our Craterhoof? There it is. There's a lot of tramply guys. What are you going to do, Delver player? Concede. Excellent. I'm pretty happy with how I played that one out. We're in a little bit of a dicey spot at times, but I think saving up the things for the Glimpse turn later on ended up being a really good play. So, yeah. Right. Sideboard against Delver. Interesting. Endurances are just generally good against Delver secret decks. I think Progenitus is going to be very hard for them to answer, whereas getting a lethal Craterhoof might prove difficult post-board when they've got things like Rough and Tumble. Grist is the thing we can shoot it for. That kills their Murktide. Snuff Out is something that can kill Murktide. So that's something we need to think about, but I think the 4 life might be a lot to contend with. So, the Allosaurus Shepherd is looking good here. The Glimpses, I think, are still pretty good here. So if we're boarding in a Progenitus, we're boarding out a Craterhoof. I think that's how that usually goes. And then we're probably trimming on some of these other things. The Wirewood Symbiotes are going to be good to protect us from Graveyard Hate. The Quirion Ranger can protect us actually from a Wasteland on things that aren't Cradle, so maybe that's a good one to keep. Are we looking at glimpsing a lot? The Once Upon a Time finds us the Endurances, but we're not trying to turbo out Endurances. These are just good cards that shore up our mid-game. So maybe we're looking at doing this, and then we can trim like maybe a Visionary, because these sort of are one of our sort of later grindier things. So the logic here is we're still kind of keeping our essential combo in order here, but if a lot of our guys get removed and we can only natural order for like a thing that's not going to be lethal, we can get the Progenitus, which should be able to race whatever they do. The Endurances shut down their graveyards. They're just good mid-range things that we can be doing with our mana. And obviously if they're killing our things with lightning bolts, this is going to survive lightning bolts. It can block Delvers, it can block DRCs, it can chump a Murktide. So I think I like this configuration. I dislike having this Craterhoof in my hand, but the rest of the hand looks alright. I think we are keeping this. Hopefully we don't have to pitch the Endurance, but that's a thing we might have to do depending on how quickly our opponent's graveyard fills up. If they have a turn 1 Dragon's Rage Channeler, this might be a thing we have to do. I'm hoping that there's just a turn 1 Ponder. Delver of Secrets, okay. That's sort of not great, but we can live with that. Okay, so we have this Cradle here. So what do we want to do? So we can play out our Bayou and play out our Quirion Ranger, which could force our opponent into a mistake on their Wasteland. Or we can play out a basic Forest, Green Sun Zenith for Dryad Arbor, and have turn 2 Endurance as a play. I think that's where I would like to go with this. It gets us a basic on the board. If this resolves, it gets us above Day's mana as well, just generally speaking. So this is the best way to fend off Murktide, which is probably how we lose this game most easily. That and Rough and Tumble if they're running it. No Wasteland, okay. So they're offering a trade of my Dryad Arbor for their Delver of Secrets. I think I'm not going to take that trade. A DRC, sure. So this would have put a creature in the graveyard for the DRC. Now, it's not to say they can't just get one in there. Okay, double DRC, I see. Opponent's got 2 cards in hand. What do we want? Do we want to play around what those 2 cards are? Hard to say. So we can play out the Heritage Druid. Then we can play out the Quirion Ranger. Then we can play out the Cradle, which now taps for enough to cast an Endurance. Like, we are exposing ourselves a little bit to Wasteland here, but we might be able to catch our opponent here. Expressive Iteration. So I imagine our opponent is casting Expressive Iteration before they do anything else this turn. Because good spells are good. A Scalding Tarn. So they're probably not playing the Wasteland this turn. Excellent for us. Are they attacking? Sure. So we will cast this by tapping this. Now if they have a Daze, we might force them into a misplay, because they might not realise that we can return a forest to untap our Dryad Arbor to pay for a Daze. A Force of Will. Sure. Okay, so our opponent's got no cards in hand. Well, they got one card in hand, but they milled the Wasteland when I've got a Cradle in play. Wowzers. That's very bold. I guess they can't do it this turn anyway. They just want to try and make sure they can win next turn, which they're certainly on track for. So, what do we do here? We play this. So we have, this taps for 1, 2, 3, 4. We have 5, 6, 7, 8. So we can make a Craterhoof this turn. Will it be a lethal Craterhoof? Let's find out, I suppose. So playing the Dryad Arbor gives us +1 Cradle, but it also doesn't give us the mana from Forest, so it's the same either way. So we do this. It's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Wait, no. So this is 1, 2. This taps for 3. This is 5, 6, 7. So we're 1 short of casting this Craterhoof. 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Yeah, we're 1 short of casting Craterhoof. So we're kind of relying on our opponent to make a mistake here. Okay. I don't know why our opponent wouldn't attack for lethal damage when it's there on board, but we've got a lot of clock to work with. They might show us another sideboard card. They might show us a sideboard card for like showboating purposes, which should give us some more information going into the final game. Like if they got a Rough Tumble or something, they might just throw it out now just to assert dominance. They shouldn't, but they might do. Like they shouldn't necessarily even be casting this Ponder unless they're trying to make sure they've got resources to counter a Endurance. Now they're probably just going to attack into us anyway. Let's see what happens. Oh, Brainstorm. Okay, they're really dedicated to finding that answer to the Endurance here. I think if we're on the play, we might be able to win this game. But obviously, we won the first game, which is why we're not on the play. Oh, for a minute I thought they were holding back their Abomination. Okay, we're dead now. Okay, do we want anything different? On the play, is Snuff Out worth it? The 4 life is a lot. I don't think that's where we want to be. I think we'd rather be proactive with Endurances. No, I'm happy with our plan. Like that game again, if we were on the play, we might have been able to win that one. Because we get 1 more turn where we can cast a Craterhoof, and they were sort of running on empty at that point. As empty as Delver ever runs, which isn't actually that empty. Yeah, okay, we'll submit. Yeah, we can play. So if this gets us a Dryad Arbor, is that worth doing? Yes, I think. Like this hand is definitely keepable. I'm just trying to work out how well it plays. So I can play Allosaurus Shepherd and Elvish Visionary on turn 2 if I play the Wooded Foothills out and get a Dryad Arbor with it. That's got to be pretty good. That gets around counter magic as well. Let's see what our opponent plays. They're probably going to have a 1-drop because that's what their deck does. Is it the best one? Oh, it's a Ponder. Okay, that's basically the best case scenario for us in terms of what their 1-drop can be. DSC being the worst for us, and Delver, and then it's any sort of cantrip effect. Even holding mana open is worse than a cantrip effect for us there. Let's get Dryad Arbor into play. So this is going to power up our Cradle. So this will cast this uncounterable Allosaurus Shepherd. This will cast an uncounterable Elvish Visionary. Rough Tumble is going to be bad for us. Oh, this is a bad one to draw, but it does mean we at least have something to pitch to Endurance. Next time we're threatening something quite scary, so our opponent's probably going to have to react. Let's hope it's not Rough Tumble. Okay, not Rough Tumble. We got Lightning Bolt on our Allosaurus Shepherd to follow up. Okay, so they might be trying to hit this at an opportune time. Interesting. Yeah, it looks like a Lightning Bolt on the Allosaurus Shepherd, as expected. Let's see what we find. An Endurance. Interesting. So we can play this out. Click this for... I think a basic Forest is fine here. The thing we're looking at... We want to cast the Endurance this turn, but we want to try and bait it out as best as possible. So we'll cast this Glimpse. You're just going to get a Force. Sure. You can mill some more stuff into your graveyard. Be my guest. Then we can play this out, which allows us to play around days with our Endurance if this resolves. Is it better to do it now? I think it is better just to cast it now. Another Force of Will. Yikes. So we have a choice now. If we think our opponent has a Murktide Regent in hand, we need to pitch cast this Endurance now. If we don't think our opponent has a Murktide Regent in hand, then we don't need to do anything with this Endurance. What have they exiled? True Name Nemesis and Day. So no Murktide Regent gone there. Do they leave anything on top? So they've been putting things on top. This is genuinely a really tricky one to work out. I think if we do pitch cast this Endurance, we're kind of behind and not doing a lot. And our opponent can draw a whole bunch of stuff because they're a blue deck. So I think we're supposed to hold on to this, but let it be known if they Murktide us now. Okay, we're not getting Murktided. This is fine. Okay. We didn't have to pitch cast our Endurance. And they won't have a Force of Will next turn for us. Wow, they might. Okay, oh, they got a bloody Wasteland. That's pretty annoying. He's going to bash for 3. Of course it is. He's got 2 cards in hand. A Green Sun Zenith. I think it's more important to cast this Endurance, to be honest with you. So we'll tap this for green. Tap this for green. We will untap our Dryad Arbor by bouncing this. We'll play this. Play this. We'll cast this with holding up the Dryad Arbor to pay for a daze. Okay, goodbye opponent's graveyard. No Murktide next turn. We don't want a Green Sun Zenith this turn, so we're just bashing our opponent for 3. So we are winning the race. Our opponent has 2 cards in hand. We have 2 cards in hand, but one of them is a complete blank. The amount of Birchlore Ranger activations we need to cast this is laughable. A Bauble, that's a pretty good way to start refilling up the graveyard. Wasteland going. Interesting. I prioritise Wastelands quite highly. That suggests to me that our opponent doesn't really have much interaction with us in their hand. Because if you have like any removal spell, you're probably just taking the Wasteland to insulate against Cradle, maybe. I'm not sure. Right, let's see what our opponent does here. So they're not attacking into our 3-4. A powerful 3-4. Craterhoof Behemoth. So I think we are tapping both of these, like we did last time. Then we're going to untap this by bouncing our forest. We'll play our forest. We're going to cast this for 1 to get our Wirewood Symbiote, which will allow us to replay our oh god, where is it? Wirewood Symbiote. Yeah, so this will allow us to replay our Elvish Visionary. So we can tap this, and we can we'll untap this by bouncing this and play a Visionary. Another one of those. Not the best. I think we are swinging with our Endurance here. We're ostensibly an aggro deck. So none of our... It's going to be hard for them to remove our Elvish Visionary at least. And we get to rebuy our Visionary this turn. So I like the spot we're in. It's not great for us, but it means Murktide is slightly less likely. Not impossible though. They left a card on top of their library. That's not great for us. Lightning Bolt, sure. So the Lightning Bolt has to hit our Wirewood Symbiote here. But we will bounce our Elvish Visionary in response. I will untap our Endurance and I will return our Visionary. Bye-bye Wirewood Symbiote. Unholy Heat targeting our Endurance. Yep, that's pretty good. Okay, so this is going to attack for 3. Oh no, they did it post-combat, didn't they? I see. We got some choices here. I think I just want to play a forest and play our Nettle Sentinel. I think this keeps the most damage on the board. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So we can't cast a Craterhoof. And Natural Order is pretty dead here. We can Natural Order for an Endurance, which is actually fine here. I feel a little bit unlucky to have drawn both of my Natural Order targets. And I've only seen a quarter of my deck. But that's the drawback of playing really powerful effects like Natural Order. It's not just completely free. You do run the risk of having these show up at the wrong time. Yep. You have to attack with that. Yep. Okay, so we take 3. We've got a decent number of draws here. That's definitely one of them. Our opponent's got 1 card in hand, so we can play this around a... so this needs to be 4, doesn't it? So we go 1, 2, 3, and then we will untap this by returning a forest. We'll play this out. Do this. We'll Green Sun Zenith for 3, sorry. So we're playing around a daze. And this gets us our Endurance. Get rid of our opponent's graveyard. No Murktide. Have your tiny little channelers. And we can attack with our Nettle Sentinel. Maybe we're supposed to attack with more things there. I'm not sure. But again, our opponent's got 1 card in hand. I feel I'm really having to work for this game. Feels good. Blue, blue. Is this Brazen Borrower? Petty Theft on the Endurance. Sure. I don't need to pitch cast this Endurance because our opponent can't make a Murktide with what they have now. But we'll see what this Brainstorm does. Okay. So this looks like our opponent is trying to Murktide this turn. But they don't know the top cards of their library. Do I play around a Murktide now that makes our draws worse? That makes our game plan worse from here on out? They have this Brazen Borrower chilling in exile. I think we have to keep this Endurance. Graph Digger's Cage. Sure. Well, our Natural Order's crap anyway, so be my guest. I think they're better off. I understand why they're doing that though. They don't know our hand. That makes sense. So we can tax for 1. We can't make the end of turn endurance here. So this Green Sun Zenith doesn't do anything now. Our opponent has no cards in hand. So we are just casting this endurance. Yes, I would like to untap my little guy. We can use the Green Sun Zenith as a way of untapping Nettle Sentinel. No more graveyard for you. And I think we are attacking with our Nettle Sentinel. Play our Dryad Arbor. And let's see. This is definitely showcasing this sort of slower, grindier nature of the elves. All right, we got there. Excellent. So that was a 3-2 with elves. Let's have a little look and chat about the deck. So what did we lose to? We lost to the mirror match, which is fair enough. I actually can't remember the other deck we played. It's quite late here. I can't remember the deck we lost against, but we beat Delver quite nicely. I thought we really showcased the sort of slower, grindier modus operandi of this deck with, like, you know, getting a bit of value out of our visionaries and just boarding into these endurances against Delver, which really did work quite effectively, I thought. Oh, we lost to the mono black deck, didn't we? That's the one we lost to, which is, in my experience of playing the mono black deck, Elves is a very difficult matchup to lose. Now, I don't know how many Plague Engineers they were running. I do like to run the full 4 because I want to win matchups hard, right? So that was a little bit like they comboed us on turn 3, and we probably could have comboed them on turn 4, or at least have the possibility of comboing them turn after. So, you know, that's fair enough. And then the other one, they just had double Plague Engineer super early on, and then they also had the Opposition Agent shut us down. But the mono black deck is pretty much got to be one of the worst matchups for this deck, right? They have ways of shutting down all of our tutor effects. They have the way of killing all of our guys with the Plague Engineers. They also have a little bit of spot removal for things that are left, and they do have a combo condition that they can win with. So I think 9 times out of 10, you're probably going to be losing that matchup anyway, so that's fine by me. And the mirror, 50% of the time, you're going to lose the mirror, right? And our opponent is most likely has played more than 2 previous leagues with elves, so they're probably better at elves than I am. And there was that one inflection point where they attacked with the Nettle Sentinel, and I wasn't sure if I was supposed to block in game 1, so maybe if I block, that game pans out differently. I think if they're attacking us to give us the choice of making that block, that's got to mean to them that their Nettle Sentinel is disposable, because you probably wouldn't attack with it if it isn't. So I think I was right not to block. Again, I'd like to know in the comments if there's any elf players who can tell me if that was right or not. But yeah, I'm quite happy with how I played this league. I've said many times that I'm not an elf player, but the deck felt good. It felt like it did want the things it wanted to do. I actually wanted to play against Initiative today. I wanted to see how this deck is against the sort of the big boogeyman of the format right now, but we didn't play it. But I won't complain about having a league with no initiative in. It feels like a lifetime ago since I got to play a league that didn't have an initiative deck in it somewhere. So there's that. So not unhappy. The sideboard is definitely an interesting one because of the snuff outs and things. I think the initiative deck is what these are really for, so we didn't get the most out of them. But they did feel pretty good in the Elves mirror, and they sort of helped us out a little bit there. Now, whether or not I'm supposed to board them, I'm not sure. But the logic I had when I mentioned it made sense to me. 0 mana interaction in what is essentially like a tempo matchup makes perfect sense. I didn't really miss the fact that we only had 1 Force of Vigor. Now, obviously, we didn't play against things like 8 cards and stuff like that, but Allosaurus Shepherd and the fact that you can tutor for it with Green Sun Zenith means that you have a lot of ways of playing through Chalice. And whilst Grafdigger's Cage can be a pain, it's not that common to see. So Delver decks sometimes have one of them, and not many other decks in the format really play it. So I don't feel like that was too much of an issue. Yeah, I quite like Elves. Due to the price of Cradle in paper, I'm probably not going to be playing this in paper anytime soon, but it's nice that I can jam it online, and I think it's got a lot of intricacies, and you have a lot of lines, which is what I love about Legacy in general. So this really showcases that element of Legacy, and it also shows you a deck that is playing creatures that isn't just operating on a combat mass strategy. So you do sometimes get into combat mass solutions, but mainly you're sort of trying to play around your opponent's things, and it's a bit of a puzzle trying to work out with this, because it is definitely a combo deck that has an aggro plan, whereas the Newton Elves list, which is like the Fiend Artisan one, is kind of more like a mid-range beatdown deck with a combo in it. So it's kind of like the flip side of this, and I'm definitely much more in favour of the sort of combo-y version. All right, I think we're done for today. I thought that was quite a fun league and I enjoy playing it. Maybe that's because there was no initiative on the other side, who knows. But if you enjoy my content, let me know. I'd also like to know, are my deck techs at the beginning too long, too short? Are my wrap-ups at the end too long or too short? Things like that really help me out. I do ramble a bit sometimes, and usually because I'm recording quite late at night, so I'm kind of like, my mind's winding down. I can't remember if I've said all the things I wanted to say. But yeah, if you let me know how you're finding it and any changes you'd like, that'd be great. Obviously, if there's any decks you want to see, let me know. And if you know anyone who's interested in Legacy, anyone at all, or if you're in like Legacy Facebook groups or Discords or Reddit threads, especially Reddit, because I'm not really good at Reddit. So if you're into Reddit and you have some Legacy friends, whatever, please post my content there. It's a bit of a minefield for me to even navigate Reddit because it's all a bit too much for me. But if you can post my content there for other people who enjoy Legacy, then they can come and enjoy my content, and it might help me get subscribers. If I can get 1,000 subscribers, I can get money back when I make videos. If I get money back when I make videos, it means I can definitely keep doing this, and it also means that I don't have to worry about all these play points that I'm throwing into some of the weirder decks I'm playing, so I can be a bit more free with the stranger end of decks I'm playing. Alright, thank you very much for watching. Like, subscribe, comment, and I will catch you on the next one. Goodbye.